If you're watching this, you need to listen carefully, because I don't know how much of me is still me. There is a sound my apartment makes at night, not a noise you hear with your ears, but something you feel deep behind your eyes, a low, crawling pressure, like a thought trying to remember itself. I didn't notice it at first. Nobody ever does. That's the trick. You think it's stress, city life, thin walls, lack of sleep. But walls don't whisper your name, and they definitely don't whisper things you've forgotten. I know that now, because I am recording this from a cafe 3 blocks away, hands shaking, staring at my reflection in a dark window, trying to recognize the person looking back at me, and I can't. My apartment was small, not cozy small, not minimalist small. I'm claustrophobic. 1 narrow bedroom, a kitchenette that always smelled faintly of dust and old oil, a bathroom where the mirror fogged even when I hadn't showered, and the walls. God, the walls were covered in this old wallpaper, yellowed, peeling at the corners, covered in a repeating geometric pattern that didn't quite make sense. Squares inside spirals, lines that almost connected but didn't. At first, I barely noticed it. You never really look at the walls where you live. Their background. Static. Until one night, while brushing my teeth, I realized something terrifying. The pattern had shifted. Not dramatically, not enough to scream. Just enough to make my stomach drop. I leaned closer. The shapes looked tighter, like they'd rearranged themselves while I wasn't watching. I laughed it off. Your brain does that when it's scared, tries to turn fear into a joke before it has teeth. But later that night, lying in bed, I felt it again. That pressure. Like the walls were listening. The first memory didn't disappear all at once. It cracked. I was scrolling through my phone looking at photos, old stuff mostly. Vacations. Friends. Smiling faces. Then I stopped on one picture. It was me, standing next to someone important. I could tell by the way my arm was wrapped around them, the way my smile looked real. But I had no idea who they were. No name, no feeling, no emotional echo. Just a stranger standing inches away from me. My chest tightened. I scrolled back, then forward, then back again. The image stayed the same, but my mind stayed blank. That's when I saw him. In the corner of the room, tall, unmoving, blurred like a smudge on reality. I blinked. He was gone. My phone vibrated. A text notification. Did you find it? I stared at the message. I didn't know the number, but something deep inside me whispered that I was supposed to. The next morning, I bought a notebook, a real one, paper, pen. If my memories were slipping, I would anchor them, write everything down. Names, dates, feelings. I sat at the kitchen table and began. My name is. The ink faded, right in front of my eyes. The letters twisted, bled into each other, then collapsed into meaningless scribbles. The walls hummed, a low vibration just beneath hearing. I slammed the notebook shut. My hands were shaking now. I tried again later. Different pen, different page, same result. Every word dissolved, as if the apartment refused to let anything exist that wasn't already inside it. That night, I dreamed I was walking through endless hallways made of wallpaper, and every pattern was my face. I didn't want to be alone anymore, so I invited people over, friends, family. The first was my sister. She stepped inside, paused, and frowned. Why does it feel wrong in here? I laughed too loudly. She sat on the couch, eyes darting around. Your walls, she said slowly. They make my head hurt. I tried to respond, but her face, it wasn't right. Her eyes were slightly too far apart. Her mouth bent the wrong way when she smiled. I blinked hard. She looked normal again, until she stood up. I think I should go. As she reached the door, I realized something horrifying. I didn't remember her name. I knew she was important. I knew I loved her, but her name was gone. She left without hugging me. The door clicked shut, and the walls sighed, satisfied. I started digging through boxes, old photos, childhood toys, souvenirs. Everything was colorless, not faded, erased. Faces were smooth blanks, scenes looked unfinished. Details simply missing. I found a photo album. Inside was a picture of a birthday cake. Candles lit, but the person standing behind it had no face. I dropped the album. The whispering started that night. Not words, just fragments, emotions without context. Fear, joy, loss, all leaking into me from the walls, or leaking out of me. I wasn't sure anymore. I needed answers. So I went to the city records office. The clerk looked bored as she pulled up the building's file, then confused, then unsettled. People keep disappearing from that address, she said quietly. Tenants who moved in alone, tenants who stopped showing up to work, tenants found weeks later, catatonic, empty. All from my apartment. I went home shaking, and for the first time I noticed a seam in the wallpaper, a bulge, like something hidden underneath. I peeled it back. Behind the wallpaper were blueprints, hand-drawn. The apartment wasn't designed like a normal space. Rooms overlapped in impossible ways, corridors folded inward, walls led nowhere or everywhere. At the center was my unit, marked with symbols that looked disturbingly organic. Notes in the margins referenced retention, harvest, and cognitive saturation. This wasn't a home. It was a machine, a parasite, and I was feeding it. I confronted the building manager, an older man with eyes that never blinked enough. He didn't deny anything. He smiled. The building preserves itself, he said. People don't last. Memories do. I demanded to leave. He shook his head. You already tried. My heart dropped. He leaned closer. We can redecorate, he whispered. Speed things up. I ran. The hallucinations worsened. Rooms shifted when I wasn't looking. Furniture breathed. The walls pulsed like skin. I heard my voice whispering from inside them, saying things I didn't remember living. My reflection no longer matched me. It smiled when I didn't. And then I realized my voice had changed. Hoarse, soft, matching the walls. I was becoming part of the pattern. I tore at the wallpaper. Beneath it was not drywall. It was flesh, veined, warm, twitching. Embedded in it were shapes, faces, hundreds of them, frozen in silent screams. I recognized one. The stranger from my phone photo. He looked like he was begging me to remember him. There was one corner of the apartment without wallpaper, bare concrete, cracked. The whispering was weaker there. Hope thin but real flickered. The walls fought back. Hallucinations flooded in, versions of me at different ages, laughing, crying, dying. They tried to pull me back, told me I belonged here. I used what little memory I had left. Every emotion, every fragment. I slammed myself into the weak point. Again. The wall split. Light poured in. Sound, noise, reality. I fell through. I woke up on the sidewalk. Sirens, people, movement. The city felt too loud, too real. I escaped. But when I look at my hand, there's a stain, a faint geometric pattern under the skin. And sometimes when it's quiet, I feel the walls listening, waiting for me to forget again. If you've ever felt like your home was watching you, leave a comment. If this story unsettled you, subscribe. And if your walls start whispering tonight, don't answer.